Is Masters of Light just another glorified tech demo with endless hordes of enemies, or is this a fast-paced action shooter that really makes you feel like a powerful badass? I played and completed every single one of the 36 levels to bring you my thoughts. Welcome to another episode of Play or Skip on GameList Plus. I'm Josh, and today I am reviewing Masters of Light on Quest 3. As usual, I will go over the different aspects of the game, giving each a rating between 1 and 10, 10 being flawless. Give an overall score and the verdict on whether or not you should play or skip the game. First, what is Masters of Light? Masters of Light is described as a gesture-based wave shooter game, which I would definitely say is an accurate description, as you progress through 36 levels in the campaign using hand tracking technology to blast away enemies as they come at you wave after wave. So how is the game? Let's get into it. First, I'll talk about the graphics. From the very first moments that this game boots up, the text on the screen that shows the game loading is noticeably crisp and detailed. That level of crisp detail is very well executed throughout your gameplay in Masters of Light. One of the most notable things that I love about the graphics in this game is the detail of the levels. Even though they are basically just static images in the background, some of them have added details like this giant blue sun that pulsates as you battle away, which is actually kind of awe-inspiring. Most of the graphical details in this game are pretty straightforward but polished and quite shiny. Very importantly, the frame rate stays consistent as you play. If there were a bunch of stuttering and slowdown, it would severely hurt the gameplay because it's very fast paced. But thankfully it is smooth and snappy. And although the graphics aren't incredible or mind-blowing by any stretch, they are all around very nice looking, albeit pretty straightforward. I give the graphics in Masters of Light a 7. Next, I'll talk about the gameplay. Quite a while ago, before this game was released, I had the pleasure of trying out the experience Fight Back, which I put on one of my previous lists of great Quest 3 immersive experiences. So I was excited to hear from the developer that this game was on its way out. Fight Back is more of an experience than a game that really set the groundwork for what Masters of Light is as a complete game. Coven, the studio behind this game, really did an excellent job turning that experience into a fully fledged and exciting game. They took the hand gesture elements that were introduced in Fight Back and expanded upon them in pretty much every way. Although I must say that the creatures in Fight Back were far more scary and evil looking than the more robotic creatures here in Masters of Light. But I understand why they did that for the mass audiences, because the other one was pretty creepy. In Masters of Light, using hand gestures to unleash your powers on enemies is just such a satisfying feeling. As I said before, the game consists of 36 levels, taking you through different areas as you progress to your final goal of stopping the black hole while freeing your sisters along the way. You take on the role of an elite cosmic warrior as you battle wave after wave of enemies that have different types of attacks. You'll need to use your various upgradable abilities against different types of enemies as they come after you. Some enemies can only be killed with certain attacks, so it keeps you on your toes as you face more and more baddies. There are the main levels that you're required to complete as you progress through the main game, as well as special levels that give you extra life force that you can see stored on the back of your hand, allowing you to take more hits as you battle your way through the game. The progression of ability unlocks and upgrades is very well paced as you go from the beginning of the game to the very end. There's a score system for each level of 1 to 3 stars. If you only get 1 star in a level, you can always come back when your powers are more complete to try to get a better score. I've heard other people saying that this game is somewhat of a cardio workout, which is true on some level, but I honestly would not consider this a workout game. I definitely did break a sweat after playing for a few minutes, but I wouldn't say that my heart rate was really at cardio level, pumping really hard at any point. Although I did take breaks to cool off every once in a while. I guess if you just kept going, you would get some kind of cardio workout. The game isn't super long. I finished it in about 2.5 hours of actual game time, not counting my rest breaks. All around, I feel like the gameplay in Masters of Light really is excellent. There's an arcade-like, straightforward gameplay loop that is a lot of fun as you unleash your powerful light attacks on all the bad guys. Although this game doesn't have much of a story, it does have a nice positive message upon completion of the game. I won't spoil them, but a couple of the final powers that you get in Masters of Light near the end really do make you feel like a badass. This game does have 3 difficulty levels, so I can see this becoming much more of a workout if you put it on the higher difficulty. As I got better and gained more powers, I definitely felt like I could have stepped it up a bit. Thankfully, you can change the gameplay difficulty at any point in your playthrough. All around, I give Masters of Light's gameplay an 8. If you enjoyed this video, this is the perfect time for you to hit that like button. It really does help my channel a lot. And also, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can see all my upcoming videos. Next, I'll talk about controls. One of the absolute standout best parts of Masters of Light is the controls. Using your hands to play through this entire game is a very special experience indeed. While it's possible to switch away from hand gesture controls to using your controllers, I most definitely do not recommend it. This game is all about hand tracking controls through and through, and is easily the best example of hand tracking gameplay that I have experienced so far. The hand gestures themselves are very easy to get used to and pick up for the most part. Early on in the game, I was having a lot of trouble getting the light beam to actually shoot out of my hand like it's supposed to. Without that ability working properly, this game would be way too hard. Finally, I did realize it was just a matter of angling my hand a little further back so that it would activate the power. I just kept trying and it wouldn't work, but as soon as I angled my hand back a little bit more, it allowed it to recognize it and do the beam every time. Once I got used to that dynamic, everything else worked brilliantly. You punch to send blasts of light, you lock onto the beam with focused attacks, you block incoming attacks with your arm shield, you form a triangle with your fingers to unleash a shockwave. There's definitely a Doctor Strange mystical powers kind of feeling you get when you use the hand gestures in Masters of Light, including some very cool powers that you gain later on in the game that I won't spoil here. And it just makes me want more, which is a good thing. I give the controls in Masters of Light an 8. Next, I'll talk about the audio. Right from the very beginning, the audio in Masters of Light is impressive through and through. From excellent voice acting to great sound effects to the upbeat synthwave soundtrack, the audio in this game is quite excellent. You really do feel the emotion of each of the characters that talk to you as you progress through the straightforward story. Their sense of loss and longing is very well communicated through the voice actor's talent. The sound effects are crisp and clean and well fit to each and every power and attack, and I thoroughly enjoyed the engaging musical soundtrack. At times it felt like the music from Stranger Things pumping along as you blast away at the bad guys, in the best way possible. At a quick glance and listen, it would almost seem like this is a rhythm game with the kind of soundtrack that it has. Maybe in a sequel they could have a rhythm mode, or maybe that's just completely overdone. In any case, the music and audio in Masters of Light is excellent. I give it an 8. Next, I'll talk about Immersion. One of the coolest things about using hand gestures in VR is how much it makes you feel immersed in the gameplay. Masters of Light does an excellent job of pulling you into its fantastical, spacey universe. It's so cool just standing there, even at the menu screen, and tapping the little floating metallic rocks away from you with your own hands as they float around in space. This game is definitely a great example of immersive gaming to show off your Quest 3 to friends and family. I'd say the thing that takes you out of the immersion is simply getting so exhausted and sweaty from the intensity of some of your battles. There was a point where I stopped taking breaks and I just went for it because I knew I was getting close to the end, but this game is definitely best played in shorter increments. So in that respect, it's not as immersive as it would be if you could just sit still or at least not move around as much. For quick bouts of immersion though, this game really is a great escape from reality. I give the immersion in Masters of Light a 7. And finally, let's talk replay value. Unfortunately, even though 36 levels may seem like quite a lot, it really does go by a bit too quickly. And once you've completed them all, I can see wanting to get better scores, but at the same time, I don't see myself coming back to play this a whole lot. I'll definitely be using it as a showpiece game for people who want to try virtual reality without any worry of motion sickness, and for just the absolute wow factor of it. But in terms of wanting to pick this up and play it at any random time, I just don't see myself doing it a whole lot. That's not to say it doesn't have replay value. There are 3 difficulty levels to play on, but once you've completed the game and collected all of your powers, there's not a whole lot of incentive to gain much else other than bragging rights. I feel like one of the themes of the game is cooperation and teamwork, so perhaps in a sequel they could introduce an element of multiplayer gaming, which would give this a much deeper replay value. Or they could maybe even implement a leaderboard system with actual numbered scores for each level. That would definitely bring up the replay value as well, so people could compete with each other online. But sadly, I have to give the replay value in Masters of Light a 6. So what is the verdict? Masters of Light is a super fun, engaging, and dynamic hand-tracking physical action shooter that really does make you feel like a badass. The gameplay is tight and responsive, and the controls are excellent and downright cool. The game does suffer from being on the short side and lacking elements that would make you want to come back for more, but it is an excellent example of what hand-tracking can do in VR and a great benchmark for future hand-tracking experiences. Overall, I give Masters of Light a 7. So, should you play or skip the game? I would definitely say play it. It may not be perfect, but it is definitely worth your time. But that's just what I think. What do you think? What is the best hand tracking experience you've had in VR so far? What is your favorite shooting game in VR? Will you be buying Masters of Light? Let's talk about it in the comments below. If you decide to pick up Masters of Light VR, you can click my Meta affiliate link down in the description below, and your purchase will support GameList Plus without any additional cost to you. You can also support GameList Plus directly with the Super Thanks button down at the bottom of the video. And while you're here, why don't you check out my player skip review of Arcade Paradise VR, an arcade-based building sim on Quest 3. That is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my loyal subscribers. I will see you guys next time on GameList Plus.
Very good. Your projectiles are guided by your gaze.